I was born and raised in New York City, and I've never been much of a nature person. However, that sort of changed once I got hooked on a genre of videos on YouTube. It's a camping, survive with minimal equipment type of videos. Those videos are normally about an hour long, but I happily sit through them and sometimes watch 2 to 3 of them in succession when I have the time. With that explained, I don't think I need explaining why I had spent $2,000 in camping equipment only a couple of weeks after having found a new passion in camping. The timing for my first camping trip was perfect. My sister lives in Utah and I already had plans to visit her that year. Hence, what I did was to extend the trip from 7 days to 14 so I could use the first week in Utah camping in their great outdoors. I chose Boulder Mountain as my first ever camping location. I was able to get some advice from fellow fans of camping videos. They told me to stay close to the main campground, the dirt roads, and the larger trails. Basically, they stressed that I had to rein in my enthusiasm until I became more knowledgeable of the wild. The first day at Boulder Mountain was fantastic. The weather was perfect, I was feeling great, and really pumped to become an expert in wilderness. Unfortunately, however, that enthusiasm lasted for only an hour or so. I had gotten lost. Listen, I had no clue how easy it is to get lost in the woods. I strayed off the main trail for 10 minutes, and that's all it took for me to get utterly lost. It kinda happened like this. I saw something interesting, so I went to it. After having done so, I found another interesting thing and followed it again. Now, repeat that a few times, then you are lost. Anyway, half an hour later, I was still lost. But in a way, I was in a worse situation. You see, there was a foul stench in the air. I feared that the source might be a carcass, and you know what that means. Predators roam the area. It was quite a scary place to be for an amateur like myself. Coyotes I should be able to fend off, but bears? I don't think so. And even elks. Oh, I hear they can kick your ass to the moon and back. They're not to be messed with. I continued walking since that was the only thing that I could do. After some time, however, the stench became unbearable. I was going to double back, but here's the thing about curiosity. It tends to make people make really dumb decisions. So I ended up following the stench. I wanted to see the source of it, I just followed it. Don't ask me why. Less than a minute thereafter, I had made a chilling discovery. In a space the size of a tennis court, there was at minimum 20 carcasses of moose. There were many signs that something abnormal had happened there. Not only were there one too many carcasses, but it was the manner that were killed that made the scene so grisly. Here's the thing, all of the carcasses looked clean. Their limbs were intact, and I couldn't see any bite marks that could indicate an attack by a large animal. That being said, all of their stomachs had holes in them. If you could imagine something or someone putting their paw or hand through the stomach, that's the kind of hole I was seeing on the animals. Another weird thing was the fact that they weren't eaten. With that much stench, you would think some animal would have come and taken a bite of them, but no, I didn't see any sign of that. I remember observing the animals for about 5 minutes when suddenly I came to the realization that I was standing in a spot where all these once living animals had been killed. It was time to leave the place. I turned around and continued the search for the main trail. Luckily, I came across a hunter who helped me get back to my car. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the beginning and the end of my camping adventure. I sold all of my brand new camping gears on eBay and never went back camping again. As much as I want to experience firsthand what those cool camping YouTubers do, I think for me it's better that I enjoy it in the comfort of my couch. That is all. Have you ever been in a situation where a place you're currently occupying changes dramatically for a moment, then it changes back to its familiar looks shortly thereafter? because to me, that's been happening quite often in the last couple of months. For example, I like to take walks at night in my neighborhood. I'll be walking for 5 minutes or however long, then suddenly the corner of a street that I should recognize changes to some place that I've never been to. It happens for only a moment, so it's not like I become lost in some strange place for hours on. But still, it's extremely disconcerting whenever it happens. This is especially true when I'm driving. Think about it. 1 second of delayed reaction could be the difference between life and death. The life that would be taken, it could be yours, but it could also be that of a pedestrian. Both cases would result in a horrible tragedy, which by the way is the reason why I put my house for sale on the market. I have to move to the city where driving isn't necessary to get to work or any other places. The last time this shift of reality happened was 3 days ago. I was in my room getting changed to go out for dinner with some friends. The change happened while I was putting on my jacket. My room changed into a cell. Not like the ones in prisons. No, I'm talking about the ones with padded walls like the ones in mental institutions. That time, the shift lasted a lot longer than usual. It was enough time for me to read some writings on the white walls. The ones that I remember wrote, "Get me out of here. I don't belong here." And think of the place you're occupying right this moment in your own reality if you want to go back. Tell me, is this really happening to me, or am I imagining this whole thing and becoming more and more insane with the repeated experience? I think I'm okay. I don't think I'm crazy. But these happenings are surely driving me insane. It may be time to go see a psychiatrist, but I'm fearful that he or she might want to put me inside one of those padded rooms. What happened 3 days ago, it almost seems like a premonition. I really hope this condition I have gets better. I'd rather not see a doctor if I can help it. I was camping on a mountain when this incident took place. It was on the second day on the mountain and I was setting up camp in a new spot. I had hiked all day to try to find the perfect place to sleep for the night. It was a glorious spot overlooking the lake to the north and the peaks of the mountain towering all around me. I got the campsite ready by 5 p.m., finished dinner by 7, then began investigating the surrounding area for an hour or so. I didn't go too far, obviously, since it was dark. But there was so much to see and so much to take in, I had no need to venture far to find something interesting. I was surrounded by beauty in its purest form. By 9 p.m., I was securely tucked in inside a sleeping bag, which was inside the tent. I was about to fall asleep, but then I felt a sting on my neck. I slapped on my neck, hoping that I would catch the bug that had bit me, but no luck. I turned on the flashlight and searched everywhere inside the tent, but couldn't find any insect. I would have gone back to sleep right away, only if my vision hadn't turned all trippy. I didn't feel pain or weak. It didn't feel like an effect of some type of a poison. I had been bit by a rattlesnake when I was young and nearly died from it. You can trust me when I say this. Real poison running through your vein is one of the most painful things one can ever experience. The sensation that I felt from the bite, it was more like what people describe when they do coke. I felt a little dizzy and disoriented, but overall, I was feeling real good. Even so, it's not normal to feel such a way under any circumstances other than when you are high. Thus, I decided I was gonna get some fresh air and to try to clear my head. I stepped out of the tent and walked around a bit. I was a bit concerned that moving around would elevate my blood pressure and thus hastening the effect of whatever poison that was in my system. However, it wasn't like I had better alternative. The nearest hospital was some 100 miles away, and that's only calculating the distance from the base of the mountain. What's more, I hadn't brought my satellite phone on that camping trip because this stupid man forgot to renew the contract for it and thought that I'd be okay without it for this trip. So essentially, if the poison was deadly, the choice was to either die inside the tent or at least meet the end while enjoying the glorious view of the outdoors. Let's just say that it was not a tough choice to make. So once outside, my vision became even trippier. At first, I could see the outlines of animals in the surrounding area shine and glow, as though they had Christmas ornament all over their body. I remember smiling and being so happy. I had never seen or felt anything like that in my life. After some time, people began appearing from inside the woods. They had the same glowing outlines like on the animals. They passed me by so nonchalantly, and I, in turn, peacefully observed them, drawing as little attention to me as possible. I saw all types of people. Some were dressed like the natives, some looked as though they had been plucked right out of a film from the 50s, and some of them looked like me, the modern man. I watched them intently, and some of them stared back at me. Throughout the whole thing, I was relaxed and didn't feel any apprehension for what was transpiring right in front of my eyes. The march of the people and animals was graceful and peaceful. Then, sometime thereafter, my eyelids became so heavy. I knew I was about to pass out. So what I did next was to get back to the tent as quickly as possible, and the rest is blank. When I woke up the next morning, I felt better than ever. I checked the surrounding area of the camp in search of footprints, but I saw none. So the bottom line was, the previous night, I was either tripping out from whatever substance that coursed through my body, or maybe, just maybe, I saw the spirits of people and animals making their grand journey to some place we don't know. I can't tell you exactly what happened to me on that night, but I can tell you what happened afterwards. Somehow, I can tell apart the happy people from the unhappy ones. Equally, the good people from the evil ones. It's a rush of feeling that comes to me, and I haven't been wrong about people ever since the incident. My life was good before the camping trip, and I dare say it's been better afterwards. Sorry, Dennis, but this is not a scary story. It's got a happy ending, or more like a happy progress. So deal with that, my friend. I went camping for the first time in my life in the summer of 2017. My friend's boyfriend had suggested it, and we all thought it could be kind of fun. I grew up in the city and never spent a night outdoors. It was kind of exciting to think about that. We set up camp at a spot some 10 minutes of walking distance from a lake. The plan was to hike in the morning, then go swimming in the lake in the afternoon. We left the camp for the hike at 9:30 in the morning, but couldn't walk for more than an hour. I'm not much of an athlete, but I can walk for longer than an hour. It's just that walking on a paved road is much easier than going uphill on a rough trail. Hence, I was spent after an hour, and we went back to our campsite, walking another hour for the return. When we were close to our camp, we noticed something had happened there. Something violent. As we got closer and closer, it became clear to us that a wild animal had trashed our entire campsite. The tent was shredded and was all over the place. The icebox was in pieces like they were made from paper and glue. Even the camping stove, which is made entirely out of metal, it looked as though it had gone through a giant shredder. The campsite was a disaster, and it didn't take a wildlife expert to figure out that the culprit was a bear. It had caused all of that destruction during the 2 hours that we had left the camp for the hike. Now, let's make this clear. I harbor no ill feeling for the animal that destroyed our camp. In fact, the fault probably lies with us. We probably haven't packed our food sealed well enough, and that likely would have attracted a bear. With that being said, imagine if we were at the campsite when the bear came around. Do you have any idea how rigid and sturdy iceboxes are? Picture yourself replacing the icebox with the lumpy dough that is your body. The outcome of a bear and human coming together would have been very nasty. For the human, that is. They say bear attacks are extremely rare in the US. The majority of the experienced campers we spoke to told us that slips and falls were far more likely to kill people than wild animals. Even so, the thought of being eaten alive by a bear is horrifying, because that's what they do. They don't kill their prey before eating them like the lions do. They'll bite off a chunk from here, then another chunk from there. You'd be lucky if it hits an artery while it bites, and it results in you bleeding out quickly. Holy Mother of God, I'm done thinking about this. Goodbye. It was on the night of December 22nd, 2018, when I got lost while driving to my sister's new place. Mallory got married earlier that year, and she moved to South Carolina from Georgia. I hadn't seen her in more than half a year, and I was very much looking forward to catching up with my sis. But back on the road, I was using Google Maps to guide me to my sister's. I had maybe 20 minutes of drive left when, for an unknown reason, the Maps app decided to quit on me. I did try to restart it, but it would get me to the home screen, then shut down again. I wasn't too concerned since the rest of the way was driven mostly on the same road. I could call my sister when I'm close to her home, and she could help me get to her place over the phone. Hence, I continued driving. About 10 minutes thereafter, I came upon a structure that didn't belong on a stretch of freeway. It was one of those arch entrances that you often see in gated communities. Not to mention, you could see the letters at the top of the arch, likely indicating the community that I was entering. I couldn't read the letters because of the speed that I was traveling at. I think I was doing 70. In fact, I had to pump the brakes hard to slow the car down since somehow I had entered a gated community straight from a freeway. That's correct. I didn't go down a ramp and I took no exit. The freeway, it just connected directly to the entrance of this gated community. It made zero sense. How dangerous is that? No, you know what? Forget dangerous. Just what kind of a moron designs a combination of road and residential area in this manner? What in the actual fuck? But yeah, once I slowed down enough, I began to observe my surroundings, and I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was really a neighborhood, a freaking gated community. Let me repeat that, and I want you to think about this. I was driving on a freeway at 70 miles an hour. Then, without a warning, I go under an arch of a gated community, and I have to slam on the brakes so I don't slam into a house. Places like that shouldn't exist. Anyway, I stopped the car in front of a house, then stepped out to find someone, anyone who I could ask for directions. I walked around a little, but could find no one outside. So then I walked over to the front of a house, then rang the bell. No one answered. I rang the bell several times, but still no answer. After that, I rang the bell of 3 other houses, and no one was home in all those properties. Initially, I thought perhaps it was a brand new community and no resident had moved in yet. However, that didn't make sense either. You see, all the houses seemed to have furniture in them. At least, that was the case with the houses that I rang. I could see through the big windows at the front, and they all looked to be lived in. Those homes were not some type of model houses. I was able to walk to the end of the neighborhood in 5 minutes or so. One thing that I hadn't thought of at the time, it was how dark all of the surrounding areas were. It was as though the gated community was built in the middle of nowhere. Nonetheless, I didn't think too much of it at the time. I walked back to my car and began to drive out of the gated community, only I couldn't. The issue was, I couldn't find the exit. The arch gate was nowhere to be found. And if you remember, that's the structure which connects the town's main road directly to the freeway. Now, it's easy to think that I might have gotten lost, but there are 2 problems with that assessment. The first is the fact that I hadn't made any turns after entering through the arch entrance. Meaning, if I did a U-turn, then all I had to do to go back to the freeway was to drive straight down the road. The second problem is the size of the neighborhood. Yes, it was a big community when you consider the fact that it was a gated one, but it was nowhere close to being so huge that one might get lost inside. That especially wouldn't happen if you were driving. For the next 5 hours, I had tried everything. I tried driving around the neighborhood, I tried knocking on every single houses, and I even tried screaming for help to no avail. The cell phone, by the way, was useless. I couldn't get any signal on the damn thing. After 10 hours of wandering around the neighborhood, I had found a ladder in the backyard of one of the properties. I used it to climb up to the roof to get a better look of my surroundings. A single-story roof was the best height I could achieve, but it was enough to learn that there was absolutely nothing surrounding the community. An easy way to imagine a top-down map of the neighborhood is to drop a penny on top of a flat surface with no other objects on it. The neighborhood was just a dot on an enormous canvas. According to the view from the roof, I was literally in the middle of nowhere. An entire day had passed wandering in that neighborhood. I was terrified of my predicament, but perhaps too exhausted to think about it too much. I went back to my car, which was now almost out of gas. I fell asleep as soon as my head touched the headrest. My body had just given up. When I woke up, I saw daylight for the first time in 33 hours. In total, I tried looking for the exit for 24 hours and slept for 9 hours in the car. Yeah, it was nighttime for the entirety of the 24-hour search, and presumably while I was asleep. Another anomaly was the place that I had woken up at. I looked around, but there were no houses or roads that I had seen the previous night. All I saw was a flat plot of land, clearly designated to build a neighborhood or maybe a large building like a shopping mall on top of it. That was all. I followed a dirt road and it eventually took me back to the freeway. Luckily, I had enough fuel in the tank to reach the nearest gas station, and Google Maps also started to work again. I arrived at my sister's within the hour, and Mallory hugged me like she hadn't seen me in ages. She was worried, sick. I was essentially missing for 33 hours, and she had already contacted the police about me. In my case, I think I was so relieved to find civilization again that my only goal was to get to my sister's and could think of nothing else. I sit at home today and try to think of a logical explanation for the incident. I can't think of one. I've thought about it 1,000 times and more, but all that comes back to me are supernatural events such as glitch in the matrix, alternate universe, multiverse, and such. Then clearly, what happened on that fateful day will remain a mystery. Hey guys, Dennis here. First off, I have a cold. It also rained on the day that I recorded this, and that means I know the narration sucks. I do apologize for the subpar audio, but cold symptoms and the rain I've got no control over. I've done what I could under the circumstances. I hope you'll be understanding of them. That said, thank you so much for getting behind the last video. It's already got more than 100 likes and about 40 comments from you. They make a big difference on how much a video might get promoted by YouTube, and it already shows in the analytics. You guys already know this, but what you guys do controls the fate of this channel. I mean, to be more precise, what happens to this channel is one part up to you guys, and the rest is me creating content that you can genuinely enjoy. The bottom line is, if you think this channel should thrive, then continue liking and commenting, but on the other hand, if you think that it should fail, then do the opposite. Ultimately, I guess you let the market decide, but it never hurts to appeal to your core viewers for support. And with that taken care of, I need to tell you of a couple of additions that I'll be making to this channel. It's not a change, you'll get the usual contents on a regular interval, but I'll be adding short videos and also compilation videos going forward. This is something that I had mentioned in the past and gave them a try for a brief period of time. I couldn't do it for long since I had to take several long breaks from this channel due to my job situations in the past, but it's going to be implemented now since I'm back for good. The short videos will fill in the gap between uploads, and the compilation video format was actually a request by a good percentage of you guys. I just want you to know that if the title says compilation, I'm not talking about new videos. I had to say it because some people can get confused. As for the short videos, they are needed because YouTube props up channels that upload every day. I don't think I could upload that often, but I should be able to upload some 3 to 7 minute videos every other day perhaps. They'll fill in the gaps. Let's just leave it at that for now. I'm really hoping that's gonna help my channel get out of YouTube's doghouse. Now, what you guys do, I've got no control over. But here's me hoping that you'll give the shorter videos some love as well. We'll see soon enough. And that's it. Thanks for listening. I'll see you on the next one. Happy 2020. Goodbye for now.